Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host, Khalid. Today is the 20th of June 2023, and these are the stories that we will be discussing in detail in the course of the show. We'll begin with the updates as far as the tragedy of the Greek boat that capsized near Greece, in fact, is concerned. We have a lot of developments as far as Pakistan is concerned, whether it be nabbing of some of the culprits behind sending these people through these ships to other shores, whether it be the human smuggling or the human trafficking angle, whether it be Interior Minister Rana Sanaullah, who has promised that the investigation into the Greek boat tragedy will be completed within a week's time, or whether it be the authorities who arrested 2 more traffickers allegedly involved in human smuggling, whether it be our Prime Minister that has formed a 4-member body to investigate into this, whether it be different parts, different segments of the society, including our members of the parliament who have highly talked about this and have asked for ways and means to curb human smuggling and human trafficking. We'll be discussing that in detail in our first segment. Our second story, ladies and gentlemen, concerns the heat wave. There is a report by our Met Department that says that there is going to be a severe heat wave that is going to engulf Pakistan between the 20th to the 24th of this month. Now, the fact remains that we all are witnessing the increase in temperatures. I myself am seeing this in Islamabad as we speak, and a lot of people are seeing this in Lahore and Karachi as well. And these temperatures are going to increase. What needs to be done? How should we curb the different effects of the heat wave that we could get, and how should one prevent oneself, whether it be from the angle of taking medicines or taking the necessary precautions, or whether it be from the angle of environment. We'll be talking in detail about these 2 angles. Then we'll be talking about the blasphemous content that we are seeing time and again, although the content has decreased to quite some extent on social media. But how can we tackle this issue? There have been certain guidelines that have been issued at the end of April this year by the Ministry of Religious Affairs. At the same time, the PTA has also tweeted yesterday, and I quote, uploading, sharing and propagating unlawful, sacrilegious, blasphemous content on internet social media is prohibited, offence under the laws of Pakistan. Report the links for blocking. And I'll of course be talking about the different links where you can highlight this and send your complaints. But of course, this is an important thing and we need to highlight this as much as possible. This is going to be our third story. Let's begin with our first, and that concerns human trafficking, the Greek boat capsizing, not the Greek boat, but the boat that capsized near the Greek shores. Who is at fault? How did all of this happen? How come around 750 to 800 people were on board? How come so many Pakistanis or other nationals were on board? What are the procedures through which this human smuggling and human trafficking goes on unabated? More in the following report.
The endless tragedies in the Mediterranean Sea continue as hundreds of Pakistanis are feared dead in a boat tragedy off the coast of Greece. 4 days after one of the worst disasters in the Mediterranean in recent years, it has been transpired that several Pakistanis are among the victims. At least 79 migrants drowned and hundreds more were feared dead or missing after their overloaded boat capsized and sank in open seas off Greece in one of Europe's deadliest shipping disasters. In February, 96 people died when their wooden boat smashed into rocks on Italy's Calabrian coast during a storm. About 72,000 refugees and migrants have arrived so far this year in Europe's frontline Mediterranean countries, according to UN data, with the majority landing in Italy and around 6,500 in Greece. The irony is that when the world was faced with a refugee crisis in the last century, governments joined hands to protect refugees by entering into the Refugee Convention. This time too, governments are passing laws to prevent migrants. Every other country among the wealthiest democracies is tightening immigration policies for domestic political gains. As far as the global refugee crisis is concerned, there is a need for a more radical concerted effort for better accommodation and protection of refugees and asylum seekers. Those who are going through the painful saga of a life away from home, categorized as internally displaced persons, externally displaced persons, asylum seekers and refugees, deserve to be treated like humans with dignity.
Now, to discuss more on this segment, we've been joined by Mr. Khalid Mahmood. He's a former Inspector General of Police. Khalid Saab, thank you very much to have joined us. Khalid Saab, in your point of view, how important is the role of organizations such as the FIA? Because we are seeing a lot of people, agents who are now slowly and steadily being nabbed by the FIA, those who've been involved in incidents such as human smuggling of those who unfortunately lost their lives in this Greek tragedy. What has been your experience, because you were associated with it as well, and what were the issues that you encountered then, and what do you feel needs to be done now?
Well, thank you, Retd. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak. Well, before I address the real issue, let me give you a perspective on the complexities of the issues we're talking about here, and some of the developments and some of the landmarks that FIA has gone through during the last couple of decades. So when I was there in FIA, there was a time when there was a lot of human smuggling being done by air, and the people would just buy a ticket in collusion with the FIA officers, go abroad by air, earn their passports, beat the system there, apply for asylum or something, and then they would be deported. Some of them would be deported, and some of them were lucky enough to make it. So eventually, we had to pay penalties on all those people who were deported. So we plugged the system both ways. It was a two-pronged approach. The West made sure that the loopholes in their systems were plugged, and we took a good advantage of technology. So, what we did was that there was a zero error between the passenger manifest and the immigration record before a flight was allowed to take off. So this issue was plugged. Similarly, we had similar issues with people who used to go there. They were considered either migrating or smuggling or trafficking. So there was a thin line between smuggling and trafficking. Those days, there was an ordinance that we used to follow. It was called FACTO. And there were some kind of loopholes in that. But during the last 2 decades, they have been very successfully plugged. Now we have the migration, the two acts that we have here, Prevention of Smuggling of Migrants Act 2018 and Prevention of Trafficking in Persons Act 2018. So they're in many ways, all the legal issues that we had, they've been taken care of. So similarly, then the FIA decided to have offices in 3 types of countries: the origin countries, the transit countries, and the destination countries. So there is some institutional leverages that we have to pull and push to align ourselves with the international covenants that we've signed. So a case in point would be TIPS report, the trafficking in persons, where we are on tier 2, and we moved from tier 3 to tier 2, first to tier 2 with a watch list, then on tier 2 without a watch list. So actually tier 3 would have meant that all aid would have stopped except for the humanitarian aid. So FIA has done pretty well in this, but let me just sum it up by saying, how do you stop a person who's determined to go there? Let me just share an incident. I was in Spain, and I suddenly got called, and there was a person who said, Khalid Saab. And I turned around and I said, who would know me in Spain? And there was this person who walked up to me and they said, do you remember me? And I said, no. He said, you've deported me twice from Dubai, and here I am in Spain. So I said, is it really worth it? And he said, yes. Every dollar is worth it, How do you stop such a determined person? But having said that, it does not diminish the responsibility of the state. So in the current scenario, what we're talking about is in the Greek port tragedy at the Mediterranean, the main issue, I guess, would be the responsibility of the transit and destination countries, where they need to focus totally and be aware of the fact that human lives, whether legal or illegal or through whatever rich, poor, whatever nationality, they matter. And somebody has to take them into account. Somebody is responsible if a life is lost. I think that should be the main issue that needs to be discussed here. Because because I believe there is ample time where if all resources, I'm nobody to give a judgment call. I've been on the spot, so I wouldn't want to give a judgment call. But I think that in the developed world, this issue is somehow in the background, in the back burner.
All right.
It's not
All
one
right.
main priority.
All right. Khalid sir, we'll continue our conversation. We have to go to a short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. We're talking about human trafficking, human smuggling, and of course in the whole context of the capsizing of the boat near the Greek coast. And we are in conversation with Mr. Khalid Mahmood, who's a former IG police. Thank you very much, Khalid Saab, to continue to remain with us. You talked about the role of the transiting countries. How important, for example, in this case, let's talk a little bit about this very case that has kind of awakened many other countries as well. How important, in your point of view, is the role of the Coast Guard of any country to save lives of migrants if he sees such an incident happening? Should humanity need to prevail in your point of view? I'm saying this because there's a BBC report that says that the Greek Coast Guard did not show a responsible attitude vis-a-vis helping those who were asking or calling for help.
Well, it's a tricky question because now we have a committee formed here by the government of Pakistan, and there are various other forums that are already discussing this. So I could give you an opinion, but not a judgment. So in my opinion, like I said before, there was ample time, and there usually is ample time, but it's not usually very high on the list of priorities of these countries. So to bring it on the top priority, I think one needs to understand that we already have international agreements, international conventions where all human lives are important, but they're somehow put in the back burner. So in Pakistan, we have the interagency task force where FIA takes the lead, but all the agencies are on board, and we have a regular meeting of that task force. Similarly, I think the destination and transit countries need to wake up, and they need to make sure that those who are in their international waters or who are in their jurisdiction, somehow their lives matter. And they need to be a nobody to tell them what exactly to do. They are the best people to judge how to bring it on, improve the priority of this specific issue. And I think that is the main thing. All we can do is to just push them or, talk to all these countries where such things happen, because this is not the first time. My personal experience in Muscat, Oman, where I handled these issues, I had the most terrible feeling when I saw the flight of people. There were like 100 people on a boat which could hardly carry 20 people. There were no safety measures, there were no life jackets, there was nothing at all. The food was very less because it carried weight, so they would prefer not to carry it with them. And in case something goes wrong, then it's just, pray to God, nothing else. There are no mechanisms in order. So I have been there, I've seen these people suffer, and when these people die, their bodies are floating on water and nobody's there to claim them. So I think it needs to be given due importance internationally.
I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you on that, Khalid Mahmood Saab. I hope that the world kinds of brings in more regulation as far as how to curtail human smuggling and human trafficking is concerned, because this is something that has been going on since quite some time. And you have recounted yourself so many incidents of that in the past as well, with your experience with the FIA as well. But there needs to be some kind of mechanism, internal and external, so that even those smugglers or traffickers who are working from within any country need to be curbed, need to be handled properly before any such incident even begins to happen, because this is something that a lot of people want to do, which for reasons I fail to understand. Nevertheless, this is a huge debate, and I hope we'll get the opportunity to talk about that in a later show. But thank you so very much, Khalid Mahmood Saab, former IG police, to have joined us and to have talked to us about this very important incident that has kind of rattled the world. and also a lot of countries across the world, whether it be in the West or in the East, about how to curtail human trafficking and human smuggling. Let's come to our second segment and let's talk about the heat wave that of course there's a report by the Met Department of Pakistan that says that this heat wave is going to engulf different areas of Pakistan between the 20th and the 24th of this month, and we need to be extremely cautious and extremely careful as far as not going through the whole signs and symptoms of the heat wave, because this could be extremely dangerous for anybody and everybody, whether you're a child, a woman or a man. We've been joined by Dr. Sohail Yousaf. He's an environmentalist, and we will discuss the different aspects of the heat wave with him. Thank you very much, Dr. Sohail, to have joined us. Dr. Sohail, first of all, heat waves are common in countries such as Pakistan, but the severity of the heat wave is increasing with every passing year. Do we attribute climate change to that?
Thank you very much. Yes, of course, this is the climate change which we are experiencing. You know, all the climatic and weather patterns, they are showing the extreme in whether we see in the precipitation, whether we see in droughts, whether we see in the heat waves. The reason is that the temperature is not only in Pakistan, all over the world we are experiencing that there is an increase in the average global temperature, and this is resulting in the catastrophes, the atmospheric and related to our climate and the weather conditions. They are very harsh these days, and heat waves are one of them. We in our region like India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, we face it or we feel it more because our summer temperatures are already high. So if 4 to 6 during the heat wave in last year, it was 4 to 6 degrees high, even 7 degrees higher than the normal temperature in the summers. And same is happening this year, as you already told that our Environment Department has told that this week we will face the heat waves, and again the temperature would be 4 to 6 degrees higher than the normal. And this is a huge increase in the temperature. So that's why we feel it more.
But you know, there's one thing that there's an increase in temperature. There's another thing that you feel that the temperature is much more than it actually is. What are the basic reasons behind that? Why do you feel as if it's like 50 or 52 degrees Celsius when it's actually 45 or 42?
Well, this is more related to our habits and the way our way of life we are living. We have changed. If we see in the last 20 years, we have changed our lifestyles a lot. First of all, one thing that will reduce the effects of heat are the trees. So if we see the forest area in Pakistan in total is around 4.5 to 5%. Though the United Nations recommends it should be 33% at least. So we could see that we are already far below that limit. And then in last 20 years, from 2000 to 2021, there has been a decrease in our forest area. And this is around 1%. And mostly, so trees, they help in reducing the temperatures, in capturing the carbon dioxide from the environment. So they keeps the temperatures cool. And then if we see, this is the total area. But if we talk about our cities, we see how much plantation we have. We barely have a plantation now. Even the areas which were some 20 years or 15 years ago, which were had the plantation, now we have the houses there, we have colonies, we have plazas, and there is no such scheme or the plan that even if we have the colonies or plazas, there should be plantation as well. So we are not going towards plantation. So if we have the concrete buildings, and they are, the shade of a building and tree is far different. The trees they regulate the heat, and they have their shade is more pleasant than a building. So this is the reason actually that, and then we have switched to the electrical appliances. We see every house have air conditioners. All the heat is going outside. So that's why it further, aggravates the its harmful effects.
All right, Dr. Sohail, I'd like to also understand what needs to be done. I remember when I was a kid in Islamabad, if there was a heat, if there was an increase in temperatures for about 2 days, the third day it used to rain and the temperature used to cool down because there was a lot of forestation at that time as well. I understand where you're coming from and how you're trying to say that the forestation has decreased to a large extent, the number of trees have decreased to a large extent. What kind of measures locally and nationally should we take as citizens in order to reduce the effect of heat waves, in order to reduce these increased temperatures that could further cause a lot of disease, that could further cause issues such as heat wave, that could further cause other issues as well?
I think we need to educate the people, and education does not mean that we need to send them to colleges or universities. Education means we need to train the people. We need to understand that our activities not only causing the negative impacts on the environment, and this is not only disturbing the others. This is disturbing everyone. So we need to understand that, first of all, if we talk about the long-term measures, then we need to change our lifestyles. When we talk about lifestyle change, that means we need to plant more and more trees. In our streets, in our houses, in our fields, in our cities, we should have a plantation drive, and we'll see that the temperatures would fall if in 10-15 years, if the plantations is carried on in these areas, especially in the cities where the impacts are more. And then if our buildings, if we talk about our infrastructure, this is not energy efficient. We do not make the energy efficient buildings. We make big houses. We are compelled to do due to societal pressures or whatever. But if we look at the other countries, they made energy efficient buildings. For example, we should use maximize the use of solar energy, not only like solar cells, etc., but the sunlight. So we should utilize more than during the day. You don't need to turn on the lights. So this will reduce our dependence on the fossil fuels from where we are obtaining the energy. And then we have to make green infrastructure, which we unfortunately we lack it. We are not making any green infrastructure. We are not recycling anything. We are not even recycling our water. And so we need to change ourselves. We need to change our habits. We need to switch on the air conditioner only when it is much needed. So, but in our practices is like, if I can afford, I will turn on 10 ACs. So it's all about the affordability. So this is what I talk about, that we need to aptitude change is something that matters. If we go abroad and we visit them, we see them that I never experienced a 1 minute or even a 10-second load shedding in abroad. But still, if we see the people, they don't turn on lights in the morning. They see the temperature. If temperature is above 30, then only they go for the air conditioners, and then they keep the minimum. So though they are not shortage of any electricity, and on the contrary, if we see in Pakistan, we are facing the shortage of the power supply. But still, our aptitude, not everyone, but majority is like this. If I can afford it, I will use it. If I can afford the electricity bill, I will turn on 10 ACs. But we need to see what impact it is causing on the environment, on your neighbors, in your society. So we basically.
But Dr. Sohail, my last question to you, Dr. Sohail, is you talk about aptitude, you talk about attitude, but look at our society and the way it is built. There seems to be a lack of understanding of how to respect our environment and our climate. Do you feel this could come with stricter regulation? Do you feel this could come with better practices in all the organizations, or do you feel it could come with proper education at different levels where curricula based on climate change could be inculcated?
Yeah, well, I don't agree with the strict regulations. I think many regulations exist. For example, I know from last 5, 10 years in Islamabad, there have been ban on polythene bags, but it's hard to implement. So I'll stress on the education. We need to educate the people. We need to tell them about the importance of saving the energy, planting the trees, and changing our habits. That it will have a positive impact on everyone. So this should be, the training should be given in the houses. So when our children should learn these things from their house, not in the school. We don't need to go to school or college to learn these basics. So if we need to practice these things, I should practice myself, and then in the house, and the children should learn from their, elders. And this is how we can change the society. We cannot enforce them. I don't believe in this. The change would
Change needs
come
to
with
come from
some
within,
strict
and change, as you
regulations.
said, needs to come from good education. I think that is primordial, that we include education from the primary to the secondary level on how to be better citizens, how to respect our climate, and what are the measures that we need to take as kids, as young adults, and as adults in order to protect our environment from further damage. And heat waves is just one of the different how should I say, eventualities that we are confronted with because of this, and we are getting more and more of those heat waves just because of the non-respect of climate change by us as individuals. Thank you so very much, Dr. Sohail Yousaf,
Thank you.
environmentalist, to have joined us, to have talked to us about this very important issue, that is heat wave that is going to engulf Pakistan between the 20th and the 24th of this month, as per the Met Department. Before I leave this segment, I just wanted to give some of the signs and symptoms as far as the heat wave is concerned. You could have dizziness, you could feel faint, you could be confused, nauseated, muscle spasms, you could have a headache, you could have severe sweating, you could feel tired, and you could also have a heart attack. So be very, very careful when you venture outside, especially in the next few days. Keep yourself covered, have an umbrella with you all the time, have a bottle of water with a little bit of salt or sugar in it in case, and take care as to not venture too much under the sun. That is all we can say, but do protect yourselves from the heat wave that could affect you in the coming days. Let's come to our last segment, and that concerns blasphemous content online. We've been talking about this for quite some time. We have talked about it in the religious context as well. We have seen how our religion and our Prophet ﷺ has been used as a tool by certain segments online, and this vicious hatred against Islam. That is why the whole campaign of Islamophobia to rise against all those who are trying to denigrate our religion and our Holy Prophet ﷺ. But blasphemy goes much, much beyond religious aspects of that. This said, there have been certain guidelines that have been issued at the end of April by the Ministry of Religious Affairs and Interfaith Harmony, keeping in view the media's significant role to prevent blasphemous content on social media. And also the PTA has time and again talked about the effect of blasphemy and blasphemous content on social media, the latest being a tweet that it posted yesterday saying that uploading, sharing and propagating unlawful, sacrilegious, blasphemous content on internet and social media is prohibited offence under the laws of Pakistan. I'd just like to briefly tell you about certain sites that you can visit in case you find such media online. You can report the links at http :/complaint.pta.gov.pk, register a complaint.aspx. You can download the PTA CMS mobile app and register your complaint there. And you can also contact the PTA directly. Bakhtawar Mahmood, digital media management professional, joins us online. Bakhtawar, thank you very much to have joined us. Bakhtawar, blasphemy or blasphemous content online is nothing new. We've seen it time and again on different social media platforms. But in an age where social media can be accessible anytime, anywhere, and in any corner of the world, what needs to be done?
Omar, first of all, thank you so much for having me. This is a topic where we have been thankfully triggered multiple times. This is a topic where we should have been actually working since a very long time. We are living in a country where there are no OTT regulations. There are no OTT regulations worldwide, but specifically talking about Pakistan, there are a lot of things that we should have focused earlier. Now, the problem is that, of course, everyone has access to mobile out the tele-density of the mobile or the cell phone subscribers of Pakistan is more than 85%. 5% of the population of this country has access to mobile phone. They can create content, they can upload content, and also they can propagate the content. This leads us to a situation where, of course, whatever they publish, whatever they create, cannot be filtered out. Of course, it can create a lot of things which are happening nowadays. First, a lot of things which have happened in the past, they are scrutinized. A lot of the content creators have been uh, responsible, or obviously they have this. But with the passage of time, we hope that living in a country where we cannot track down the basic things in terms of.
All right,
I
Bakhtawar, I'd like to kind of, I mean, there might be not enough laws, but there are certain laws under which you can book people who propagate a blasphemy online. And I'd like to refer to 2022 when two men, Muhammad Usama and Maisham Abbas, were arrested by the FIA, and they were arrested under Section 295C, which is the use of insulting remarks against Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, 295B, which is tarnishing of the Holy Quran, 120B, that is a person accountable to punishment for offence committed in Pakistan, 109, which is abetment, and 34, which refers to acts committed by many people in continuance of common aim. Now, the fact remains that there are certain laws under which you can book, but what measures online can we take as citizens until such time that we find regulations? Because even in the West, you know, which says that it harbors all the laws possible, it still cannot control social media. So coming to Pakistan is very quite, I mean, it's quite distant. But first, you know, even if you look at the United States of America or the EU or other countries that are supposedly, have all the laws possible, but even then they cannot control social media. But then the onus of responsibility comes to us as well. As individuals, what should we do? Because of course the PTA, because Bakhtawar, you know, PTA has issued different websites, it has issued telephone numbers, it has issued, as I said, it has a CMS mobile app where you can inform the PTA if there is any content online of that sort. Do you feel more needs to be done? And if so, what are those measures?
Actually, all the laws and the code of conduct that you have mentioned are for the creation or the propagation of the blasphemous content, but there are no OTT regulations for the things that are being circulated over the internet, because neither the FIN or the PTA or any other ministry or relevant organization can control the information flow. The only way you can control the information flow is through the platforms itself. For example, if there's a content that is being propagated and YouTube itself or Facebook itself or Twitter itself bans it or using certain hashtags or algorithms, only that is the way that is only accessible. Other problem is that it comes down to the basic ethics. Whatever we are, which we believe is something that needs misinformation and of course handling of the information and then propagating is something that has been the trauma that Pakistan has faced in the last few decades. This Info Lab has released everything that has been going around in terms of propagation. In terms of the blasphemous content, of course, it drops down to everyone's own basic ethics of sharing such information, and obviously putting down that anyone who has created such content or anyone who has informed the relevant organization about such and takes the responsibility. Unfortunately, there has been some misuse of such content previously, such agenda previously, and let me clarify it as well that most of the times when we do see sectarian clashes online, there was a time when almost Sunni sectarian clashes were at the peak, but we could not identify that 95% of such tweets or hashtags which were generated to ignite this clash the two sexes or the sex were actually coming from a neighboring country. So we need to identify it ourselves, whether the content or the thing that is coming or being propagated is thoroughly investigated, and only then we can accuse one person of that.
True. You know, Bakhtawar, at the end of April, some guidelines were issued by the Ministry of Religious Affairs and Interfaith Harmony, keeping in view the media's significant role to prevent blasphemous content on social media. I'd like to, take some of those points and discuss them with you. One, as per the guidelines, the ministry says it is essential to launch a public awareness drives in all the sections of the media to discourage obscene content and highlight related laws and government initiatives to meet this menace of society. How important is the role of media, traditional media such as ours?
Well, the first thing is the access to the information. This is what is creating the problems. We are unfortunately at a level where most of our internet users are not educated. So it is our responsibility, the media channels or the digital media entities themselves, to educate its audience. Whether it is in the relevant language that they understand, whether it is in the regional language that they understand, and also dropping down these whole things to our generation, which we now call as Gen Z, trying to make them understand what exactly are the norms that needs to be followed. A lot of extremists, we call nowadays are the keyboard warriors. They express their grudges, their sentiments through social media. There is no proper regulations around it, and what they have been consuming from the social media is reciprocated to their platforms as well. So, of course, digital media campaigns, small messages, a lot of influences essentially can play a good role. I do see some good religious scholars preaching this interfaith harmony. Of course, that is important. It's creating some good impact, just to name a few. They're creating content for the online audience as well, for the digital audience, so it reaches to the masses, to the people who not have access to television, but they do have the access to this small device as well. So,
All right.
think
Bakhtawar,
there are
last question. How important is a collective responsibility? I'd like to refer to the fact that more than 100 million people in Pakistan are using social media. And we know how blasphemous content is propagated like wildfire. I'll just give an example. The four people, as per the Ministry of Religious Affairs report, together formed a blasphemy group in 2019. In 2022, when the FIS cybercrime wing caught them, the number of members of this group had increased to more than 32,000. How important, again, I'll refer back to the beginning of the question, is nabbing these people a collective responsibility, not just of the government, not just of the organizations, but also of us as individuals.
First of all, we need to understand that most of the propagandas or such things which are creating to ignite issues or create problems amongst the masses is usually from the foreign agendas. So most of the people, I believe, living in Pakistan, even they have some extremist thoughts about their religious beliefs as well. They will not create something that can be that can be traced back and is easily accessible. Because if I post anything on my social media, I am well aware that it will be quite easy for FI or any other relevant organization to trace back my IP, and then I can get arrested for that. But of course, it is a proper propaganda, which now we need to understand that it might not be us who are doing this. It might be some foreign agendas that they're trying to create the fuss that is going around. Of course, the political tensions are there, but as a responsible citizen of Pakistan, of this country, we all need to understand whether this information which is coming through our WhatsApp groups or through social media, Facebook groups, where is this coming from, whether it's true, and if you have certain doubts about it, just stop it right there. Propagating your links to certain contact lists or anyone in your Facebook or any other social media platform is just going to propagate it. And as soon as you receive such information, just report it back. Of course, when there are no OTT regulations, go to that particular platform and report it under the options or the settings button, and the platform itself then take care of it. And apart from that, as responsible people, we are all educated. We know how to use mobile phones, and we can definitely go to the relevant websites, which now the government is taking responsibility as well.
All right, thank you so very much, Bakhtawar Mahmood, digital media management professional, to have joined us online, to have talked to us about this very important topic, that is the spread of blasphemous material on social media and how to curtail it. Awareness, education, and collective responsibility is the way we can move forward. It's just not the responsibility of one organization or one person. It is the responsibility of all of us as individuals to be aware of such content and to educate our young ones and those around us on what is blasphemy and blasphemous content. With that, we come to an end of today's newsroom. We'll see you inshallah tomorrow with news content, stories that pertain to you, us in Pakistan. Allah Hafiz.